Hi everyone and welcome to this Datawizz tutorial. In this quick tutorial, we're going to go over training your first model on Datawizz, your first specialized language model using logs you've collected in the Datawizz platform, deploying that model, and then starting to use that model in your application. So this will be the first step in replacing traffic that today you're sending to a large language model like OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, or any of these other large models to a specialized model trained on your data using the Datawizz platform. So without further ado, let's get started. In preparation for this tutorial here, what I have is a simple project. I have it configured with an OpenAI provider, which I've been using. I also created an endpoint, and I've started logging requests through this project. And you can see here I have about 500 logs. All of them are LLM requests. In this case, we use a very simple classification use case. So you can see all of them are going to be prompts asking OpenAI to classify different news articles for us. And then you can see the response are always the class that these news articles fit into. So a very simple use case, and you can see all the logs have pretty similar shape in that regard. So this will be great and a good example of an area where we can train a very small specialized model that will do this job with high accuracy, but way more efficiently. So to do this, we're going to head into the model section, and I'm going to go ahead and create my first model. So here, first of all, I'll give it a name, and here I'll call it test model 1 billion, and I'll do that because we're going to use the llama instruct 1 billion model. So this is a way smaller model than the OpenAI model we have been using. Next up, I can configure which data I'm going to use. So you can see now I'm using all of my 500 logs. I can choose different filters. So if I had some tagging, if I had human quality feedback, like positive and negative examples, or if I had different models that I've been using to generate these logs, I can configure these filters here to filter which logs actually go into this training run. For now, I'm just going to keep it simple and use all the logs that I have. And then similarly down here, I can configure a lot of aspects about my actual training run. So how many epochs run, the learning rate, a lot of terms that will be familiar if you've been experimenting more with model training or AI in general. For now, we're just going to leave these all as is, which will let the system optimize these parameters for us. So now I'm going to go ahead and click Start Training. And what this is doing behind the scene is it's actually spinning up a machine and running a model fine-tuning training for us. Now, this is a process that's going to take probably a few minutes, given a few hundred logs. If you have thousands or tens of thousands of logs, this can easily take up to an hour or two. So definitely give it some time. I'm going to speed up this to keep this tutorial short. So I'll see you back in a second when these training run is done. So coming back in here, we can see that this took a couple of minutes, but the model is now trained. If you're curious, you can also go and look back into the logs to see all the details and interesting outputs from your log training. But now that the log is trained, or that the model is trained, we can do a couple of things. First of all, you actually have access to all the model files right here. So if you do want to run them locally or deploy them anywhere else, you can just go ahead and download these model files and run them anywhere where this model can be deployed. But more easily, we can now go and deploy this model on the Datawizz platform itself. So I can go ahead and click Deploy Model. I'm going to choose to deploy it on the Datawizz serverless platform. And what that means is we're only going to pay for the requests that we make on a per token basis. And Datawizz is going to automatically scale up and down the amount of servers needed to serve that model without you needing to think about that infrastructure or pay per hour for the actual servers. So I'm going to go ahead and click Deploy. And now if I actually go into providers, I can see that obviously I have GPT-4o Mini with the associated costs under OpenAI, but also now this new small model that we've shown on the Datawizz platform deployed on the Datawizz serverless platform. Now, a really cool thing that we can also go ahead and do here is actually select these two models and then go to compare, which will let us run a single prompt against both these models in parallel. So to do that, I'm actually going to go and open my saved prompts menu. And these are all the logs that we've previously sent to this application. So we can take one of these and run them manually against both models. So I'm going to click on a log here. You can see that it loads this prompt for me. And when I click run, it's going to in parallel execute it against both models. And you can see here that it did classify them both as world. We can try another one just to give it a shot. And it did classify them too. Another thing that you can do here as well, if you're interested, is if you go back to providers, you can actually go into the Datawizz serverless model and also deploy these unfine-trained models or untrained models. So I can go in and just select Llama 1 billion and deploy that. I can also even go in and deploy a 3 billion parameter model. And this gets really interesting because this is also where you can go ahead and compare across different variations. So we could have multiple fine-trained models with different training parameters. We can have some untrained models, and we can go ahead and compare against all of them. So I can, again, take one of those prompts here, run them, and see how all different models behave against that same prompt. So this is a great way to evaluate those models and kind of get a feel for them. But obviously, once you have a model that you're happy with, you want to connect it to your application. And thankfully, that is a very easy thing to do. So we already have an endpoint, which is our main router for routing incoming API requests to those different models that we have deployed on Datawizz. So we can see now you might have an endpoint that is routing all of its traffic to GPT-4o or any other model provided by one of the large model providers. Here you can just go ahead and add an upstream. So we can select Datawizz serverless and this new model that we just trained. And then if we wanted to live side by side with some other model, but prioritize more traffic into it, we can even go and send a larger volume of traffic over or give it a higher weight. So in this case, I'll give it a weight of 60, for instance, which will mean that for because we have a weight of 60 for this one and a weight of 1 for OpenAI, 1 in every 61 requests will go to OpenAI, and 60 in every 61 requests will go to this new model that we just trained. So this is obviously going to be a very aggressive split, and you can change the number, or you can even go ahead and delete the original model if you want to route 100% of the traffic towards this new model. But from now on, your code that is already calling this endpoint, so you've already gone through the integration step to start calling this endpoint from your application, the traffic will just start getting routed between those two models instead of all just going to the GPT-4o mini. And then lastly, obviously, you'll be able in the logs themselves to see those different requests and to see that in the dashboard as well once you start making those requests. So in this quick tutorial, we went through the training, testing, and deploying your first model on the Datawizz platform. Good luck.